Welcome to the BriteVibe podcast. At BriteVibe, we believe everyone deserves to be happy. But in today's world, everywhere you turn, there is division and negativity. At BriteVibe, we have created a global movement to bring 8 million people together who are inspired to live bright, live bold, and share bright vibes. Alone, it can be hard to change, but together we can change the world. Welcome to the BriteVibe podcast. Well, Travis Robbins, welcome to the BriteVibe podcast. So happy to have you on today.
Thanks, Matt. Happy to be here.
I am excited and been looking forward to this conversation. You are going to attempt to do something that I believe no other, if I've done my research, but you can correct me, if no other human being, dead or alive, has ever done. Is that accurate to say?
That is accurate.
Okay. And it's a pretty monumental feat that you're attempting to do. And so on the BriteVibe podcast, the reason that I really do this podcast week in, week out is really just to try to bring inspiration, positivity, literally bright vibes, so brighter vibrations into the world. And so I love to have people on the show that are doing things that are helpful to other humans, also unique, maybe pushing the boundaries. We've had athletes, we've had doctors, we have a lot of coaches come on our show, life coaches, but then actually coaches, all walks of life, but all of them have this one common thread that they're helping humanity, they're helping their fellow humans, or they're doing something to stretch themselves. And I think you definitely fit that category. So thank you so much for coming on.
I definitely appreciate you having me. It's an honor.
Yes. So you're going to attempt to do something again that's never been done in the history of mankind. So we've been around however many millions, thousands of years. We won't even debate that today. That's not even the discussion. But really, give us, before we get into what you're doing, give us a little background about who is Travis Robbins now. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, I'm going to describe that Travis has behind him a world map, and he's got some sticky notes on the world map. And so it's kind of a black and white world map. It's got it's got the world on it, and that's going to be part of our discussion. So I'm doing a little teaser here for you that are listening. But tell us a little bit about Travis. So kind of what's a little bit about your background, or kind of because what you do for a living doesn't necessarily connect with what you're about to do. Is that accurate?
Right. Yeah. Actually, one thing that I like to say, or I like to keep in mind is, you're not what you offer. What you offer is an extension of who you are.
Hmm.
So I definitely agree on that front. And a little bit about me. I'm originally from Maine and
Okay.
grew up in a small town. There was probably almost more cows than people there, probably.
Hmm.
And I graduated high school a year early because I was not a fan of school. So I got out of there as soon as I could and just went into workforce.
Hmm.
And I spent some time in the military. So 4 years in the Marine Corps.
Oh, good for you.
And I learned a lot, even though I got out as soon as I could. It was still a good
That's what
experience.
I've had buddies that have been in the Marine Corps, and it's been definitely very good for them to shape discipline and shape their lives. But they were ready to get out when their time was done, because
Yes.
it's a serious commitment, right?
Yes. And I was one of those people that I originally enlisted, planning on doing the whole retirement 20 years
Oh,
and
well.
then try something else with life. And 4 months in, I realized that was not going to happen. But it was good overall.
Good.
And so I got out of the Marine Corps 4 days before COVID shut the world down.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's
Wow.
kind of just not able to do anything for a while. I was living in a trailer.
Mhm.
I was living in a trailer for like 6 months.
Mhm.
Finally moved elsewhere for work and started working at a wind farm. So I've had a
Okay.
range experience.
Yeah. So what are some of the things, and we're going to get into it just very shortly, this monumental feat that you're attempting, and I want to get
Mhm.
I want to get all of it. But kind of what are some of the different things that you've done vocationally? And here's why I'm asking this, because I think, the thing that I really like about this adventure you're getting ready to embark on is that you've got this background that wouldn't equal what you're about to do. And I
Yeah. No, no, it
right? Is
wouldn't.
that accurate? And so for people watching or listening, for me, I hope it's an inspiration for myself and for others of your past doesn't equal your future, right?
Mhm.
What you've done to this point has maybe prepared you for what, tomorrow may bring, but it doesn't necessarily equal what tomorrow may bring, if that makes sense, right? And so
Yes, very
so
much
so
so.
so so what do you do currently, I guess? Let's start there.
Well,
For
currently
for money, I guess, for income, to pay your bills. That's what I mean by that, right?
right. So currently I help coaches with their operational this systemizing their operations. So basically helping out to save time and make things more streamlined by putting their da- repetitive tasks into automated systems. So
Oh,
that
very
it's
cool.
just more streamlined. They don't have to worry about it. You set it up and it's taken care of and it just works on its own.
And so
And
when
I
you
also
say
work,
coaches, you're talking about online coaches, people that are
yes,
coaching,
online
right?
coaches.
Like
Yep.
physical fitness professional coach. I mean, you're talking about online coaches primarily.
Yeah. So one of the guys I work with, he is an executive leadership coach.
Got it.
And so he helps the executive leadership to kind of reshape the organization so that it
Mhm,
runs a lot more smoothly and
mhm,
it kind of inverts the hierarchy of serving. So instead
mhm,
of the top-down leadership approach, it kind of flips that triangle upside down and the leaders are the servants for their managers. The
mhm,
managers are servants for their employees.
mhm,
Employees are servants for their customers. So
mhm.
it's a servant-based leadership
Oh,
approach.
nice. That's very cool. And so you're helping him automate the back end, the back office. I'm assuming
Right.
like
Yep.
marketing, I don't know, analytics, all that fun stuff. You're kind of helping build, or you do that, help them streamline that.
Yeah. So I helped him rebuild his site and basically convert all of his inefficient systems onto a CRM, so
Hmm, hmm,
client relationship management tool,
hmm.
and then using that tool, just automating certain processes so that he doesn't have to do all this manual work.
Perfect. I think that's a great setup for the segue. So that
Yeah.
has nothing to do with what we're talking about today,
Right.
but it did set the stage for you can do anything you put your mind to. So uh, you're going to traverse the longest road in the world, which is 14,000 over 14,000 miles, and you're going to do that walking. Is that
Yes.
okay? So you're going to walk 14,000 miles from South Africa all the way to the very tippy tip top of Russia, pretty much, right?
Yes.
Siberia or somewhere around there. Is that accurate?
Yep. Cape Town, South Africa to Magadan, Russia.
There we go. And so you're going to walk 14,000 miles. That's going to take you approximately what length of time?
About 27 months.
Okay, so the better part of 2 years plus,
Yep.
right? So 2 little over 2 years to walk 14,000 miles.
Give
No
or take a
one's
few hundred. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, no one's ever right, give or take a few hundred. No one's ever attempted this or ever done it. Has anybody
So
attempted this walk?
kind of both knows because it was
Okay.
only discovered back in 2019.
Oh,
This dude
really?
on Reddit was playing around on Google
Who was?
and sorry?
Who did you say? You referenced somebody.
Yeah, some guy on Reddit.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
remember his username.
Okay.
It was some letters
Okay.
and numbers. But he found this like Google Maps or Google Earth or whatever it
Mhm.
was. He was playing around with it and found the longest walkable road in the world. And so he posted that.
Continuous, right? And so
Yeah.
literally this is a road that connects from again the tip of South Africa and it connects all the way up through Russia.
Yep. Goes through about 15 countries.
Wow, that's incredible. And so one gosh, over probably almost 2 decades, a decade and a half ago I read the book The Long Walk. Have you heard of this book?
It is
Or
on my reading list.
perfect, and there's also a movie. I never watched the movie. I did read the book. It was very inspirational, but it was, from the from what I understood when I read it, it was based on an actual event that happened where some Russian I believe they were prisoners of war or political prisoners, but they walked from basically Siberia down into the top of, I think I wanna say Egypt. Um, but they walked and it was like, I wanna say 4,000 miles or 2,000 miles. It was a
Mm.
long and they walked through like, the Himalaya they had to cross the Himalayas. There was a lot of stuff they had to do to traverse there. And again, there is a movie. And at that time, they called it the long walk, right? This was a very, very long journey. And so when I looked at your deal, I was like, wow, I wonder if he's walking the same thing. And I realized, no, 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 no. You're not walking the same thing. You're walking something 2, 3, 4 times longer than what they did back in the 40s. I think it was post World War II, I think, or right around World War II. And so, and I'm sure you get this question, but this is the question that's just top of mind for me is why on earth, literally,
Yeah.
why do you wanna wa 1, I think it's very noble that you wanna do something nobody else has ever done before, that's just cool, but why on earth do you wanna do this?
Well, to get a little bit more into the backstory,
Yeah.
growing up, I was a runner,
Mhm.
and whether that was running away from tickle torture because my older siblings love to do that, and I absolutely hated it.
Right.
It's weird, like when you're laughing but you hate something. It's a weird
Right.
complex.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Um, and I did that. I did cross country and track as well. I was
Oh,
just running everywhere. Um, and then some life events happened after high school. I got into an early marriage, which
mhm,
resulted in an early divorce,
mhm,
which then propelled me into the military. So I internalized that running and just started running away from things that I didn't want to deal with.
mm,
And that led to several years of masking, hiding, running away, and just not wanting to deal with life.
yeah,
And that that culminated in about 2021. I got arrested twice for DUIs, and
okay.
I got arrested twice, and I also get fired from a great job
Mm,
for showing up with alcohol in my breath. So that was like the towards the end of my downward spiral.
mhm,
And after my second arrest, I realized I needed to start making some better choices with my life.
mhm.
And so I got into personal development and trying to figure out how to put my life in order. And I also that's when I came across Jordan Peterson as well.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah. I watched that documentary the other, probably 2 months ago. I watched the documentary on, Netflix, I think. There's a documentary on Jordan Peterson, which I'd never really I'd heard his name, but I never really paid any attention until the documentary. I was like, "Oh, he's a very interesting gentleman."
honestly, I don't think I've actually seen that yet.
It's
I've
good.
seen
It's good.
a bunch of
No,
his other
no,
work,
no, yeah,
but
it's like it's a full length hour and a half documentary. I mean, it's him. They just follow him. I think it's one of, but
mhm.
it's pretty, yeah. It's
Well, I
and I
know what
think
I'm
it's
doing after this.
yeah, and I think it's a fair. I mean, I never knew anything about him. It just popped up on Netflix. I watched it, and I was like, and I thought that they did a pretty good job of giving a fair assessment of him. It wasn't like a pro Jordan Peterson documentary. It was more like, here's this man, and here's what he's done, and here's
Yeah.
kind of the good, and they showed, they showed friends of his that were thought he had gone too far. So they
Mhm.
gave both. I thought it was very balanced, I guess is what I
That's
want to
pretty
say.
cool.
It wasn't for or against. It was more just, here's the reality of things. So you ran into Jordan Peterson's work.
Yes, I ran into his work, started learning about, taking personal responsibility for my life and trying to put my life in order, develop a vision and do that kind of thing. And at the time I was also trying to upskill and learn how to do things online so I could be self-sufficient because I was going to lose my license. And at the time I had a traveling job, so I
Mm,
couldn't drive anymore.
right.
And so I was learning about operations, funnel building, stuff like that.
Mhm,
And then I had to serve some time in jail for the
mm,
two DUIs. I had to serve
mhm,
10 days in jail.
right.
And that was kind of terrifying because I had no idea what to expect.
Mm.
I'd seen some things on movies and TV. I was like,
Right. You thought you were
what's going to
walking into
happen?
Shawshank Redemption, right? You were
Right.
like, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna be."
I,
Right,
I
this
actually
is
went to Google. I was like,
right,
what's county jail like? And it
right,
was such a relief because it was not what I was expecting at all.
okay,
It was just super boring. But I had
okay.
plenty of time to do some reading.
Uh-huh,
And 2022, last year, was pretty much like the first time I actually started reading,
mhm.
apart from having to read some mandatory books in high school. I didn't read it all, but last year I just started reading. It's amazing the things you can learn when you actually want to read something.
Right.
Um, so my seventh day in jail, I had already read like three or four books. And so I grew up in a Christian family, going to
Uh-huh.
church and
Mhm.
Bible school and stuff like that, or Bible camp. But I'd never actually gotten to know what it was like to be in a religious. I didn't understand it, so
Right.
I decided to read the New Testament.
Uh-huh,
And
yep,
my seventh night in there, as I was reading the New Testament, it felt like it was reading me back, and it was a
uh-huh.
really visceral experience, and it was like cracking my soul open. So
Wow.
definitely my come to Jesus moment. And
Was in
from there,
jail. Well, this was your
yeah,
jailhouse your conversion, right? It wasn't
yeah,
I like
yeah.
that. But it only took
God
you
had to
7
get my
days
attention
versus, like,
somehow.
7 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So after that, I felt like it was time to start on my own. And so when I got out, I told my boss, I was like, "Hey, I can't work anymore because no license, no traveling. Sorry, but thanks for the opportunity." So maybe that was a little bit unprofessional of me, not 2 week notice. Anyway,
Mhm,
you knew I was going. I started doing online business and getting into networking and trying to figure out how to emerge into the business world because I'd never been in that world before. And it was literally felt like I was getting into a whole new universe.
Mm-hmm.
So I was pretty naive when I started. I thought, within 3 months, I'm going to have my first client. I'm going to be the one that is not a statistic and doesn't fail the first 3 years or first year. And God, I was so naive, but lessons learned.
Right.
And it was August when I was first introduced to the road. I was on a networking event chatting with this lady about life experiences, stuff like that. And she sent me this article that Global Rescue did on debunking the world's longest walkable road. And from that, reading that article, it was a spark of inspiration I got. I thought it'd be such a fun adventure to go on, just traveling the world, walking around these different cultures and countries and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And that was kind of fitting the theme that I was in. It was walking through the different aspects of my life, trying to learn from, why did I end up in the situation that I ended up in? How did I get myself into that situation? It was also a book. I don't remember who it's by, but Extreme Ownership by a Navy SEAL, ex-Navy SEAL, I think. Basically taking accountability for everything in your life. Because, you make your own decisions and stuff like that. So I was taking accountability for everything that I could and unpacking all the not so smart decisions I've made and trying to just really dissect my decision-making process from childhood up until jail.
Mm-hmm.
And so that that road it felt like it was calling out to me. I make reference to movies a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
if you've ever seen The Secret Life of Walter Mitty,
Mm-hmm.
there is the scene where he is down in his office with his partner and they're like, what do we do? We can't find this still frame. And it's supposed to be the
Oh, right. Yeah.
last magazine.
Yep.
Like, I don't know. And he looks up at his corkboard and he sees a picture of the photographer out in this area. And then it looks like, he's beckoning him out there. And that's what it felt like to that road.
Right.
The road had a hand, it was beckoning me out. So,
Mm-hmm.
I thought it would be a really cool thing to do, but I was still focused on business. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I do the business, I get that going, and then I can do fun things with my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tried to put it off for a couple months, but it just kept coming back. And so after a couple months, I just kind of started digging into it. Like, how could that be possible? Because, it says probably is not possible. So how could it be possible?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And, when you ask different questions, when you ask the right kinds of questions,
Mm-hmm.
you definitely get different answers. So I started getting the puzzle pieces basically, and it just started coming together. And the math, like actually doing the math,
Mm-hmm.
it seemed completely possible.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like with David Goggins doing
Uh-huh.
the pull-up challenge.
Yep.
Like, just do the math and it becomes possible. So
Right.
that's where I started to put things together and do the organization, the planning, logistics, and start figuring things out. And that's why I'm doing it. Just, I was running away for most of my life and it got me in jail. So now walking through the various aspects of my life, walking into what I'm here for, walking into my calling, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to serve. So it's changing direction and also moving forward with purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's developing the vision and actually going for it. And is there anything better to do with your life than to develop a vision and go after it?
Nope. No, I don't think so.
So,
And I think it just if you stay dedicated, I think it just you're
mm,
constantly revising the vision and rededicating, right? I mean, that's
yes,
part of the practice of living. If you're choosing the practice, it's a constant evolution of that. So
absolutely.
so how many miles a day will you have to walk to traverse that in 27 months?
So I'm planning on 20 miles a day, 6 days a week, resting on the seventh.
Got it. Yep. Yep. That's probably good. Your body will probably say, yeah, it's time to 1 year or 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I decided I was going to run a mile every day because I heard a speaker talk about, they'd start running a mile, and I like literally ran a mile every day for 61 or 62 days. And then on the 62nd day, my body went, it wasn't the length. It was just the consistency of no
Yep.
rest, of not a day
Right.
off. And my body was like, we're tearing down. We're never recovering. And it was only a mile a day, but it was just the constant running. right?
Oh
And
yeah.
so,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm sure you're going to need that day to just let your body heal up as much as it possibly can, right? And
absolutely.
and so when do you actually what's kind of your departure date or your beginning date?
June of next year.
Okay, so June of 2024 is your
Yes.
when you're gonna leave. And is that timed with seasons or something? Did you kind of time out the seasons or is that just
So it was interesting. I was trying to figure out when I would be starting.
uh-huh.
This a coach and mentor of mine basically was saying, like, if you want to do something, set a time frame.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, well, when should I start this? And I'm thinking to myself, I have no idea, anything about this route or anything like that.
Right.
And I was just like, okay, well, let's just pray about it. So I
Uh-huh.
started praying about it. I was like, when should I start? And I just felt June. So I was like, all right, let's just go with June. And
Oh,
then
okay.
learning a little bit more about the seasons and
Uh-huh.
stuff. I'll be starting in winter in South Africa,
Mm,
which is it's kind of cold there, but it's not terribly cold. Like I live in
right.
South Dakota. I grew up in Maine.
Right. Right. You're used to
Experience in the
cold.
cold
Right.
weather.
Right. Right.
So
You're gonna be
it's
wearing
actually going to work out
a
pretty
sweater, not
well.
a parka. You're gonna be wearing long sleeves, not like oh
Right.
right. Yeah.
I don't need to be Michelin man in South
Right.
Africa.
Exactly.
But the way that the duration is going to play out with the seasons, I'll kind of be walking along for the coolest parts going up through Africa. So starting
Got
in
it.
South Africa to be winter.
Yep.
And then when I get up to the northern part of Africa into the desert area,
Uh-huh.
it'll be winter again.
Got
So
it.
it won't, I think I will skirt past the really hot season. And then when I
Yeah.
get up into Russia, I'll just experience all the seasons. So
Oh, yeah, well, they're both huge, right? They're both,
yeah,
huge land masses, so you're gonna be yeah, I was just
over
thinking, what
half of the walk is through Russia.
is that right? Okay,
Yep.
so and I'm just thinking when you get up to the very end, you're gonna wanna do that in summer up in Russia, I would think, or the better part of summer, right? Because
I'm
I
just
don't
going to keep going.
know. Okay, alright, I appreciate that, but I'm
I
thinking
mean, the more
Siberia
movement
in
I
winter,
have, the
you're
less chance I'll freeze.
what?
The more I move, the less I'll freeze.
Right,
I have to keep going.
right.
Wim Hof can survive in cold weather. I can't.
Right,
Well,
right, there you go, there you go.
even though
And
he's a freak of nature.
yes, and then how are you kind of, so have you figured out all your logistics? Like, you have to have visas for some countries, can you I mean, if you're traversing 15 countries, I've traveled enough to know that it's not, you don't just get to walk from border to border unless you kinda have that figured out already, right?
Yeah.
And
So,
and I know they're more gracious usually to US citizens than they are, other nationalities. We get a little bit more flexibility, but yeah, what do you have to do to actually
some
walk
areas.
border to border?
So some countries I'd be able to get a visa on the spot.
Oh,
I just have to work out certain. I might have to stack visas in some areas, but at least like going into South Africa, I don't need a visa. But then other places, I'm going to need to get a visa, and then some countries I'm going to have to stack the visas because they only go for 7 days or 30
okay,
days or
gotcha.
14 days. So there's some areas I'm going to have to double up on or whatnot. And then with Russia, it's a different visa situation. So I have to go through some more paperwork, go through a sponsorship invitation letter, which is really just a long form visa, and then figure out the duration on that front. I'm going to have to go for a 3 year visa, I think,
Oh,
because they only
gotcha.
go for 30 days, 90 days, and 3 years.
Got it. So you have a 3-year visa to be able to yeah, I think I used to travel to India fairly regularly, and I had like a 10-year visa, right? They had like like the couple weeks or the 10-year. So I had
Mhm.
a 10-year, right? So it worked out fine. But uh and then what about just physical security? You're going through some parts of the country or parts of the world, not country, parts of the world that I would think would be fairly unstable
Yeah, it's a
when it
few
comes
places.
to yeah, when it comes to safety. So how does that work other than just faith? But
Well, I mean, that's a lot of it, but
yeah.
uh, probably bring some pepper spray.
Well, that's
Like,
nice.
I'm not bringing firearms
No,
because
of
that's
course
just
not.
going to get
No, no, I
ridiculous
just
going
didn't.
for crossings.
I
And I want to carry that
no,
and clean that. But
no, no.
um,
I was just thinking, yeah, like literally just physical safety along. You're walking along some of these. I'm assuming some of these are just fairly unimproved. I mean, country type roads.
mhm.
They're not all paved. I'm assuming from one
No, probably no. There's the
in
longest series
Africa.
of roads, paths, and bridges. So paths is definitely one of those things.
Oh, oh, is
Um,
that right? Yeah.
yeah. So I'm honestly, it's one of the things that I get asked frequently,
Uh-huh.
and I don't have a good answer for it
You
because
they
I'm not worried about it,
right,
even though I know that's completely irrational.
right.
I'm just
Well, I don't know if it's
not
irrational. I mean, it's probably fairly,
just not worried about it.
right.
For me, it's not something that I'm gonna be doing and I'll have to get through. It's
Right.
something that it's already completed and I'm just catching up to it.
Got it.
So just how it that's how it is for me. So,
Mhm. And then how are you planning? I think I was reading because you got a, you've started a website, the connectionodyssey.com that's kind of tells a little bit about what you're planning to do. But are you, you know, are you're going to document this? I'm assuming. So
yes.
how you documenting your process here?
Yeah, so the behind the scenes stuff that many people have told me, like, "You gotta document everything." I'm like, "What's everything? I work on a computer. There's nothing to doc." But, gonna figure out all that stuff at some point. Along the route, I will be documenting as much as I can.
Hmm.
Um, Ideally, there's a couple of guys interested in filming
Hmm.
going with me to film, through portions of the way, whether it's the entire duration or
Right.
for portions or however that's gonna be broken up.
Hmm.
We'll try to film it for, like, a documentary series kind of
Hmm.
thing, and
Hmm.
I'll just do social media postings as often as I can.
Hmm.
Like there's this guy, um, I remember his nickname. I don't remember his name off the top of my head, last name Cook, but the hardest geezer, he is
Hmm.
running the entire length of Africa. And he
Oh,
posts a
wow.
video like every day, like day 151 of running the entire length of Africa. So I'll probably do something like that, like day
Right.
74 of
Right.
walking half across the world.
Right.
So
Yes.
I'm
But
not too savvy on social media. So it's something I need to
you polish up
develop.
on. You got a little bit
Yeah.
of time before June, but yeah, I would definitely think that would be of interest to people. But then obviously that nothing else, it just kind of helps inspire you if you're posting regularly to document it so that you don't,
Yeah.
lose those snippets. But it'd be really cool, obviously, if you had some filmmakers along for the ride that they were, documenting it for you even better. Then you don't have to
Yeah.
worry about
That'd be
it.
super helpful.
Right.
Plus, they'd be better at the cinematography than me.
Right, right, and yeah, editing, and you could just they could be uploading it for you, and you get to do the easy part, just the walk.
Yeah. Absolutely. Walk and talk.
Walk and talk. Um, and then what do you so any thoughts post the walk? Or just kind of we're gonna get the walk and then see what happens from there?
Yes. Big plans for after the walk. I'm going to start a travel agency. It's going to be
Mhm,
a free service travel agency, one for business and corporate travel for like
mhm,
networking, business,
mhm,
and stuff like that. Cause I have come to absolutely love the concept and the community of business.
uh-huh,
And the next one is going to be for adventure travel, just
mhm,
going around the world,
yep,
doing fun things and
mhm,
connecting with people that love going traveling and doing fun things. So,
mhm,
and then the third one's going to be for mission travel. So going
mhm,
around and serving places that need help.
right, yep,
So there's this book by that Bjorn Lomborg wrote, Best Things First.
mm,
And he had an interview with Jordan Peterson,
mhm,
called 12 Ways the Planet Could Truly Be Saved.
uh-huh,
And it goes over these 12 items. And I would love to incorporate as much of those items on the walk as possible because I want
mhm,
to serve along the way as well. Just
mhm,
not just walk through the countries, but if we can serve and help out with whatever they need that we can help out with, that'd be
mhm,
ideal.
mhm,
But after the walk, I'm going to incorporate the serving aspect of the mission travel to working on those 12 different items.
mm,
So just help places that need help, but helping them in ways that will create the most good at the least cost.
mhm. Yeah, I had,
Oh,
the founder of Charity Water, gosh, it's been a
yes. Yep.
year and a half ago, and I can't if you remember his name, feel free to it's been a while.
He'll come
Um,
to me next week. I don't
yeah,
know.
but he had a really interesting story because he
Harrison.
was kind
Scott
of a
Harrison.
is that his name? Okay.
I think so.
I will take your word for it. But super nice guy, but, he had a very colorful background where he was a
Mhm.
party promoter, right? He basically got people to go, you know, to go to parties to buy liquor, and he got paid by the venue, and so he was partying all the time and all this stuff, and then kinda had kind of a wake-up call, and then decided to dedicate his life to something different, which was Charity Water, which is a very, I
Mhm.
think, uh
Absolutely love it.
wonderful not-for-profit that does kinda what you talked about, does work in places that they really need it, and, he's even kinda corporate, made it more in a corporate structure where it's, like, become efficient. So it's not them deploying people in places to do the work. It's them funding a lot of people that are already doing the work because they already have boots on the ground. And so it's
Yeah. Yep.
financially more efficient, meaning they can make the dollars go farther and get more work done if they're not worried about them doing charity water as an organization drilling the
And it's
well.
super empowering for the people too,
Yeah.
because it's the
Yeah.
native people actually doing that, and they have
Right.
the resources to get what they need now.
Right.
So it's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see as your
Water is
path.
one of the big things I want to bring along the way, is as much access to fresh water as possible.
Well, and you might reach out to Charity Water and see if there's some type of, some type of connection there where, you're identifying areas or, maybe they incorporate you into some of what they're doing. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there, right? I'm an
Yeah, absolutely.
entrepreneur. I think of stuff like that. It's like, well, if you and Scott connect and there could be a win-win there where you're helping them bring access to more places because you're highlighting them because you're talking about them on your journey.
Mhm.
So maybe that's a fit. Funding, how are you paying for all, because this isn't for a specific you're not doing this like for the ALS walk, or I mean, this isn't like a
Yeah, it's a
y
multi-dimensional walk,
right, you're doing it to kind of discover. It sounds like almost a walk of discovery, and
like a
I'm
rite
sure
of passage.
right, right. I was gonna say, you're gonna learn a lot. I'm sure the day you put your foot on the ground to take the first step and the day you take the last step, you will be a changed person, and you're
Better
probably
be.
and probably your thoughts about what you want to do with the rest of your life and what you want to do with this part of your story will have grown and matured and probably expanded, and because you're going to be in your environment's going to have an effect on you. It just has
Mhm.
to, right? There's no way for it not.
I mean, that's genetically proven as well. Like when
Right.
you get into new experiences, there are
Mhm.
certain genes and neurons that get activated in new environments. So going through all of these new environments and new
Mhm.
situations and scenarios, like I'm gonna have so many different neurons activated. I don't know.
Right.
I
And
might
the
just go
food, I
crazy.
mean, you're literally taking in culture. I mean, when you're
Yeah.
eating, right? You're
I
taking
love cultural immersion.
right. And so you're going to be literally and when you're walking, right, you're going to be spending longer periods of time in these places absorbing the energy and the vibe and the people and I mean, because you're walking, right? It's not
Yep.
like it's not like you're driving by and you're seeing stuff through the window or you're flying over it, right? Or
Not
even
tourism.
right, or even on vacation, right? You're literally immersed in it, and I'm sure meeting people along the path that you may be the first time they've ever seen somebody that's got your color skin and your color. You're very light complected. You got blonde hair.
Yeah.
I'm assuming your eyes are bluish. I can't, tell for
Yeah. Yeah.
sure.
They're blue.
Right. So you may encounter people that have never seen a a, a blonde haired person, or definitely probably never seen an American, right? And so here you are, the first time that they've. So I'm sure that they're going to be as interested in you as you are in them a lot of times.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
To just meeting new people. And so in high school, I had the opportunity to travel with people to people student ambassador program.
Okay.
And so I got to, it's actually the trip I got to go on was the trip that my sister wanted to go on, but she went to China. So that's fine. She had a blast there.
Right.
It was Celtic cultures. So we got to
Mhm.
spend 3 weeks in England, Wales, Ireland, Northern Ireland, and Scotland.
Oh, very cool.
And that was absolutely amazing. One of the best experiences of my life.
Mhm.
And getting to, it wasn't really touristy because we got to interact with the people. We got
Right.
to do various activities. We got to serve and volunteer with different people along the way. And we got, it was a sheepdog demonstration that we got to experience in Scotland. It was amazing.
Right.
So cool. And so I, and my name means the traveler anyway.
Mm.
So every time that I've traveled, it has been an amazing experience. So that was the UK trip. I got to go to Italy as well, right
Mhm.
before I went to boot camp. I had a layover in Turkey actually,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
I had a connecting flight. That was interesting. But I was visiting a friend of mine from high school and spent a week there in Rome, getting immersed in the culture, learning about it, eating their food. Cannolis are amazing,
Mhm.
and that was one of the best experiences of my life as well. And then
Mhm.
in the military, I was stationed in South Korea for 1 year.
Mhm.
And first 3 months was a whole lot of cultural exploration, trying their foods, learning the language.
Mhm.
experiencing their culture. It was, again, one of the greatest experiences of my
Mhm.
life.
Mhm.
And so I am really looking forward to being able to meet so many different people along the way, learning about different cultures, going to the
Mhm.
different countries, learning the history. And there's a guy I met recently. He lives in Nigeria. He's from Nigeria,
Mhm.
and he's literally training somebody to take over his business next year so that he can come walk with me. So we're
Oh,
going to be walking
nice.
around Africa together, and
Nice.
he's going to go home for some things and come back in a few months, and then we'll be going through Russia together.
Yeah, and that I was, as you were talking, I was like, really beefing up your social media presence so people can connect with you because I could see I now that you said that, there's been people that have walked across the United States. There's a guy who did like I wanted to say, a triathlon in every state, and people would come like it was almost like you like movies, Forrest Gump,
Yep.
like people would come out and spend time with this person. Um, as they were moving through their area or through their region, almost like a relay race.
Yeah.
And you're the baton, right? So it'd be interesting, as you build up to this June of 24 date, just connecting with people in those different areas to kind of be your guides, right? Because then not only are you just walking through the thing, you're actually experiencing, they're your tour guide to some degree, right? Explaining the culture and what's happening. And that would be cool for a documentary or cool for a book or cool for just social media, introducing these people to the rest of the world because of the magnification that you'll get through doing something that no one's ever done before. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And
that
that's also what I want to do for doing a podcast along the way
uh-huh.
is do get into these countries and I get
Mhm.
what somebody called a fixer for each country, like a tour guide or
Uh-huh. Yep.
somebody to walk with me or
Yes.
go along the way. And yeah, so interviewing them to
Mhm.
learn about how they experience life in their culture,
Right.
what their history has been like, what life has been like, you know, their what their culture is like, getting it directly
Mhm.
from a person, and then
Right.
just interviewing them along the way, and then doing that throughout the journey is
Right.
interviewing just random people. Like,
Mhm.
hey, who would be the ideal person to talk to about learning about your culture? This
Right.
guy. All right, cool. Let me go talk to him, and
Right. Yeah.
let's
Who
all
did
about the world together.
gosh, and I've had who was that other gentleman? I had another gentleman on the show. I think he wrote a book called Be Kind or something like this, but he didn't walk. He actually took his motorcycle and rode from
Leon Logothetis.
who?
Leon Logothetis.
Yeah, he was on the show, and I actually met him in
You
person.
interviewed him? Oh my
Yeah,
god,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's
You'll have to
amazing.
go back and research. But then
Absolutely.
he the weird thing was I interviewed him for the show, and then he was coming to the town I lived in at the time. I've since moved, but he was coming to the town to give a talk to a group I belonged to like 2 weeks later. So I actually had breakfast with him, and then I got to see him
That's
at the
amazing.
and then I had him I mean, I got to see his talk and, he signed a book and all that fun stuff. But yeah, he came on the show, and I think that's right. He takes a motorcycle, and he rode, like, all
Yeah.
of South America, right?
Yeah, so he did it in a buggy first. He went around the
Okay,
circumference of the world in a buggy, a yellow
got it.
buggy. It's Kindness One. And then the
Okay,
second trip was the Pan American Highway from
yeah,
Alaska down to the bottom of Argentina or Chile,
yeah,
on
mhm,
Kindness Two, the yellow
okay,
bike.
got it. And
Yeah,
then
I watched the series. It was so cool.
yeah, 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 and I'd be happy to put you 2 together, so if you wanna email me after, I'll have to have we got a database somewhere, I don't have it his email handy, but I can get it for you if you want me to
That'd be
connect.
amazing.
Yeah, connect you guys.
Honored.
I'd love to connect you guys, and he could maybe give you some tips, and I know, you know, I know that he was tapped into kind of the production side of how to get the documentary on Netflix and, kinda knew some of those inroads because 'cause he'd done it enough times. I mean, he kinda
Mhm.
figured out the math of the thing. But yeah, really interesting guy and, just got to the point in his life where it was like, "Hey, I need to go do something with my life," and he did, right? He went out and now
Yeah.
he's, I think at the time he came from a very depressed place. I mean, it was experiencing depression and suicidal
That's one of the
thoughts
reasons I
and
connected to him. His story
yeah,
so much.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'd be happy. Yeah, totally happy to connect you guys. And then certainly I'd love to have you come back on the show when, maybe sometime, what was it, April, May, maybe April, May, or right around the time that you launch. Love to have you come back on and just celebrate your launch and hear how kind of what the plan is and all that fun stuff. And then anytime,
I'd
throughout
be
the walk,
honored.
yeah, anytime throughout the walk you want to come back on, I'd love to kind of do some updates. Maybe we'd follow you for the 2.5 years, maybe every couple months you come on and we
Absolutely. That'd be really cool.
yeah, I would love to and then anything on the podcast side, be happy to help. We've been podcasting a long time on this show, so I'd be happy to help you with anything there as well. So if we can be a resource at all, just know, and I'm sure we're one of many, but just know that if there's anything we can do to help along the way, that's cool to watch. Uh, yeah, and I would guess that this will end up being a documentary when people do, the young lady from what was it from Australia that
Mm.
youngest person to ever
Yep. Yeah, she was
circumnavigate the
what,
globe.
16?
Yeah, something like that.
Sailing?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
they
crazy story.
made a movie about her, right? And then obviously Leon, that right? That's his name?
Yep.
That yeah, and so, it's always, inspiring. That's why I wanted to have you on the show because it's always inspiring to hear people doing something extraordinary and non-ordinary, right? This is
Yeah.
a non-ordinary thing Your walking is ordinary. Walking for
Yeah.
2.5 years is not ordinary, right? Straight.
Yeah, just some guy taking something ordinary and going a little bit extra, I guess.
Right, going to the extraordinary with it, right? Taking It's like Phelps, he's taking swimming and then he goes to the how
Yeah.
far can you go with swimming, right? You're like, "Well, I can walk. How far can I go with walking?" "Well, I can go as
A
far as"
crate full of gold medals then,
Right, "I can go as far as the road will allow me to walk. I can walk
just
from
like Moana. See how far I go.
I see how far I go." Well, very cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. How do you have a social media presence? I know, like again, I mentioned the website here, which is theconnectionodyssey.com, which basically just kind of gives a description of kind of what you're
Mhm.
trying to do. But is there a place people can interact with you a little bit more, or if they have resources? I mean, if people have resources to share or want to, I don't know if you're taking donations or getting contributions, or if you're
I
just
would
doing it on
happily accept donations.
you would happily accept donations,
Yeah.
perfect. So
Um,
how do people connect with you, kind of just to get a hold of you?
hmm, so I'm more mostly active on LinkedIn, and
Okay.
I'm just Travis Connection Odyssey on LinkedIn. I have a TikTok, which I was kind of consistent on for a little while, but dropped off of that. I'm gonna switch over to Instagram, I think. But,
Yep.
Connection Odyssey on TikTok and Instagram, and, I'm gonna eventually emerge into more consistent posting and status updates and stuff like that. So those would be the easiest ways to connect with me, LinkedIn or Instagram.
It sounds like the first thing we need here is a volunteer so if you're listening to this podcast or watching it on YouTube, we need a volunteer that'll help Travis build his social media stuff, but
Yeah,
we need a
social media manager
volunteer, right?
volunteer, that'd be
We
great.
we we need a social media volunteer, and think what a resume builder it is for you if you're a social media manager, that you help the guy who walked the long road, right? Walked the longest road.
Yeah.
Think about putting that on your resume. So I think that would be a good resume builder. So if nothing else, hopefully this podcast helps get you some volunteers to
Yeah,
help
you
you.
help me,
So
I help you.
right, so you don't have to do it all, but none of us are doing it all ourselves, right? If nothing else, that's what the scripture
Yeah,
teaches.
there is
Let's
no
all
such thing as an,
uh, you're
island person.
right, you're doing it by yourself. No, no, no,
Yeah,
it's being given to you. You just don't know that it's being given to you. Right?
right.
So,
I mean, we're meant for community. We're social
yeah.
creatures.
Exactly, exactly. Well, super cool. Let me know. Like I said, if you shoot me an email after the show, certainly be happy to look through our archives and find Leon's contact and put you together with him. And
I'd be honored.
then we'd love to have you come back on the show, pre-launch and visit with us again and maybe tell us a little bit more about what the plan is and what the route is, and then we'll schedule out some times to have you come on during your walk to help inspire us all, right? To do things that are outside our comfort zone.
Absolutely. That'd be really cool. It's all about one final thing. It's
Yeah,
all about
yeah,
to step together. And
yeah.
STEP is an acronym, to serve, talk, eat, and play.
Oh, I like that.
So
Yeah.
as long as we step together, we'll do all right.
I li So is that the title of the book, like 14,000 steps? And then you
So I
put the
was
acronym?
working on title, but I started working with a ghostwriter and he came
Uh-huh.
up with a much better title. And you actually said the title earlier
Uh-huh.
in the conversation, All
Oh,
Walks of Life.
oh, there we go. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. I love it. I
Journey of a
love
thousand, the journey of the journey of 1,000 miles started with steps in the wrong direction.
it.
All credits to the ghostwriter because he came
I
up with
love
that
it.
brilliant title.
I love that's what they do, right? You get people that are
Yeah.
good at what they do, right? And they do good stuff. So yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, perfect. Well, thanks for coming on. So appreciate your time today. I look forward to following your journey. I'll have to go out there. I'm kind of old school. I'm Facebook, so I'm going to have to go out there
Yeah.
and find you on Instagram and like your thing so that it'll
Well, I mean, Instagram, I'll just automatically post to Facebook somehow.
exactly.
Like,
So I'll see it. I'll
I'll
see.
let the social media person do it.
Yeah, you let your new social media person do that. So,
Yeah.
well, it's been a
And it's been
pleasure.
an honor. I
Yep.
definitely appreciate it. And if there's anything I can do for you,
Yep.
please let me know as well.
Of course. Of course. Well, I think you're doing it. Just being an inspiration and doing something that that inspires me and others to do things outside of uh, what we normally do. Right? Stretch, grow. It's uncomfortable. It's unknown. But you know what? It changes us in a good way. Right? There's almost nothing that we do intentionally that we go out and we for when we're seeking, as they say, you knock and I will answer. It's
Knock
kind of
and the
like with
door shall be open.
yeah,
Seeking you shall
exactly.
find.
Yeah, exactly. So if we're seeking good, we will find good.
Absolutely. Focus
Perfect.
is
Well, thank you
choosing.
so much for coming on. Yeah, I look forward to following your adventures and we'll be talking in the future.
I'm looking forward to it. And thank you so much for having me.
Yep. Bye, Trevor. Thank you for being a part of the Bright Vibe podcast. For more information, go to britevibe.com. That's BRITE vibe, VIBE.com. Thank you for listening.